Okay. We've had a delayed start because of some, I think there's a calling to order the August 26th meeting of the Southborough Select Board. And we are going to keep this meeting relatively short because I know Tim is on the pre-K through 8 building committee and they have a start at 7. We've gotten a little bit of a delayed start here. So the first item on the agenda is the request of the police chief to appoint Ryan Gervais as a full-time communications officer to the police department. So this is a request to appoint a dispatcher. Does anyone want to discuss this, or we can just, I move that we appoint Ryan Gervais as a full-time communications officer to the police department.
Second.
All those in favor?
I would, you got to record, I think.
Oh, a roll call?
It's
No,
hybrid.
everyone's here in person.
Okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm wrong.
All those, all those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, so it passes. So next item on the agenda is discussion of whether the town should request from the MSBA an extension of our eligibility for the grant for the proposed new Neary School building project. And we need to get back to MSBA on this tomorrow. So the reason why we did not consider this at our last regularly scheduled meeting was that this came up while I was on vacation, wanted some additional time to think about this. So we scheduled a standalone meeting to consider it. You know, the questions are whether we should request an extension from the MSBA. If so, how long? And if we did, we would need to consider what the specifics would be in terms of what the plan would be to actually bring this forward for consideration at a town meeting. So since we last discussed this, we received results from the Neary survey, and they're on the website. They've been posted. You know, Al is our point person for the survey. And I'm hoping, Al, you can just give us some, since we've gotten a significantly late start, just a quick snapshot of, summary of the survey results.
You want to make me a co-host, or you want to just put them up? Okay, go ahead.
And really, hopefully just keep this.
I'm going to go as fast as I
5
can.
minutes here.
5 minutes. I mean, Matt Probst is not here. I'd much rather hear from Matt Probst.
This is 5 minutes.
This is not on the agenda, but
Yeah.
okay.
So I looked at the survey results, and I've begun to tabulate them. And can you pull up the presentation? You can go back to the beginning, please. There we go. So the first thing to know about the survey is that there were 789 respondents, which is a pretty good turnout for the town survey. The survey is highly skewed in terms of people ages 40 to 49 and parents with, or rather, I should say, people with kids in the pre-K to 8 group. Next slide, please. To compensate for that, and this is just an example of the skew, the servants respondents. This is a number of households with children under 14, which represents approximately 31% of the adult population. And the survey respondents in that same group represented 51% of the survey respondents. Next slide, please. It's not surprising that the respondents with children pre-K to 8 skewed strongly towards support of the new Neary. As what is interesting is the next slide is that there appears to have been a shift from the initial response, which was the prior slide, to the current slide, where you see that those that are interested in reconsideration have increased significantly. Next slide. If you look at the survey respondents without pre-K to 8 versus the town census, again, you'll see that it's I'm sorry, this is now a picture of the respondents who do not have kids in the pre-K to 8. And I should mention that pre-K to 8 covers ages 0 through 8th grade. And here this group shows itself as being somewhat older. Next slide, please. And this is where the principal opposition to the new NERI resided in terms of being the initial support being strongly opposed. And again, this group represents approximately 69% of the adult population. Next slide, please. Like the pre-K to 8 group, we see a shift towards the not open to reconsideration group. Next slide, please. There was some question as to whether there was the population that did not participate in either the vote or the town meeting was different from the population that did participate. This is just this picture suggests that looks a lot like the respondents that overall. Next slide, please. What you see again is fairly representative of the overall the overall respondents, which is to say that the age group 40 to 49 is very interested in reconsideration, and the age groups that are non-40 to 49 are not open. And so again, I think this looks a lot like the initial respondents. Next slide, please. Now we get into what are the preferences, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this. This is now adults pre-K to 8. There was not very much interest in a minimal NERI, and there was not much interest in a full NERI. There's clearly remains interest in the new NERI in this group. Next slide, please. The adults without pre-K to 8 children are strongly not interested in the new NERI. Again, not surprising. They are quite interested in the FIN, what I'll call the try to your 5 to 8 configuration. And then we go to the next slide. Here, what I tried to do was sort of match up and see where there is agreement. And the first place where there appears to be agreement, which is nobody is terribly interested in the try to your 3 to 6 Woodward 7 to 8. There is also not much interest in a minimal NERI renovation. The new NERI, the others, there is a split, but those two are clearly sort of didn't make the cut. And finally, I'm going to go to the last slide. This is it's a slide really for those who think we should reconsider or want to continue on with the new NERI. This is the hurdle that has to be climbed. If you look at the respondents who are initially were strongly or slightly opposed to the new NERI, these are the reasons why they were opposed. And it's very clear the cost was a big one. The preference for alternatives is nearly 1-to-1 correspondence. And then finally, one that I didn't know about, which was the closing of FIN, is a substantial opposition. These are the factors that would have to be overcome if you really want to continue pressing onward. So with that, I'm done.
Thank you very much, Al. Okay, so how I'd like to take it from now is we just take it for discussion along the board about what is your view about whether the board should or should not seek an extension for the MSBA grant, and if so, how long? I'm going to mix it up a little bit in the order here. So Kathy, if I can turn it over to you first.
Thank you, Andrew. So, I, probably surprisingly to some of you here, I do not recommend asking the MSBA for an extension of the time needed to pass another town meeting and ballot vote for the project that the MSBA approved. That is a new 4-grade school on the current Neary campus. It's very, very difficult for me to not support this. I will always believe that the project that was brought forth was the best project for the town as a whole. Yes, it was costly, but over time, I believe that it would have turned out to be an excellent school for our children that would have lasted more than 50 years. Kept Southborough as the attraction it has historically been for those parents looking for a superior school system, and provided a facility designed for the educational needs of students today, including those that need extra help, whose members continue to increase. That part, I think, was totally, totally overlooked. However, given the voting margins for both votes and the ugliness and the misinformation, both on the cost and the site that was used to defeat the project, I do not see a viable path forward and know that the MSBA has many other projects that the $35 million could be used for, so delaying the inevitable does not seem appropriate to me. I also want to thank, because I've got a minute here, I want to thank the other members of the Neary Building Committee and the school admin team. In particular, I wanted to thank Andrew Pfaff and Tim Litt for all the work that they did to bring the project forth. It was a collaborative group and all were a real pleasure to work with. The Neary Building Committee was an example of how a committee should operate. And Marguerite, Andrew, and Sam, I appreciated your support on the select board and the committee. Lastly, I do wish Mr. Hamilton had respected the work done by the committee and its subcommittees and acted as a colleague instead of pursuing his own agenda. It would probably have made a big difference.
Right, Marguerite?
I do not support asking for an extension of the MSBA grant. I think the results that came in on the survey, even though it wasn't focused entirely on what to do about which school, show a significant amount of division among residents in terms of supporting any one option at this point.
Tim?
I also don't support pursuing the extension. The pre-K meeting tonight, the matrix that will be shown and talked about there has some, I think, good options. A lot of clarity came forward recently in the last couple of working days. There's now a really good picture to start to consider what the alternatives do look like, and at least off of the math that the NBC had, a good comparison at this point to start to consider other alternates that are considerably less expensive and could meet a 40-year, 50-year timeline.
Okay, and Al, what do you think?
I do not support asking for an extension.
Okay. Well, clearly, there's a super majority of the board that doesn't request seeking an extension. How I approached this was, I think that I'm a little more willing to entertain it. I mean, but when you really drill down to it, you could request a 6-month extension or a 12-month extension, and I'm not confident, given the vote, that we would really get a 12-month extension. And for a 6-month extension, as you go through the process of actually drafting out a letter to the MSBA about why you request this, you have to lay out, a viable, detailed plan of, the only reason to request an extension is to bring forward the exact same proposal for a revote. And I agree with what my colleagues have said about the margins. It just not being really realistic that this plan would come back and get 2/3 support at another town meeting. And I agree with the way you characterize the Kathy as kind of, delaying the inevitable. And it's just this continuing to do this creates kind of a distraction for us. So with that, I will also not support requesting an extension. So it feels like there's pretty much a decision which has really been telegraphed here. But I'll open it up to comments from the public. I know that this is an issue that's been discussed extensively before. So if anyone has a comment on what it looks like we're seeking to do here, please let me know. Does anyone want to offer a comment? Yeah, sure.
I guess since the meeting's going to end up going fast, I'll make a quick comment, but oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm Michael Newt, 49 Wildwood Drive. So I spent a lot of time with the survey data too, and met with Al, and I think it was a good idea to commission that survey. There's clearly, a big public relations mountain to climb if you're going to get the same proposal approved. I was struck in particular by the fact that a full 50% of the survey respondents said they would not support the same proposal, either probably not or definitely not, but only 25% said they would definitely or probably not support a modified version of it, right? So if we're going to ask for an extension, it would have to be long enough to, bring a lot of information back to people to convince them that this really was the best option. And 12 months, even with 12 months, it seems like it'd be hard to do that. So I also appreciate, I was clearly also in the very, very like small minority of people who actually thought that the proposal was the most cost-effective option. That also came out from the data. So I thought the Neary Building Committee did great work, and it's a bummer, but hopefully we can move forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes.
Beth Woodcoff, 3 Skylar Drive. I want to commend this select board for moving forward. I feel that pursuing the MSBA reimbursement would have driven a further wedge into an issue and concern that the townspeople have already expressed at town meeting, and as well as the ballot box. I do think that there, in my work on the pre-K to 8 school board, building committee, that there are some very viable alternatives that can be made to work beautifully and in the best interests of the students of Southborough. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, I move that we request an extension from the MSBA. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Betsy Roseblum, 5 Strawberry Hill Road. I just wanted to thank you for your leadership on this. I know this was not easy for any of you. Thank you.
All right. We have no other matters to discuss on the agenda, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor? All those opposed?